We've had a lot of fun playing games in 2024, and we thought we'd share with you today our top 10 list on Legendary Tactics.
So we're doing a top 10, but it's really 5 each.
That's right. We're gonna meld them together into the Alta list.
Yes, but you have a special
I do. I have one that it's been driving me crazy for all of 2024 because I keep harping on you guys to play it, and neither gets it to the table. Arcs. And I've really wanted to play this one. I've heard nothing but great things about it. Flash loves it. It's in his list.
I've heard good things, but we just never got.
We have not gotten to it, and so. If you're out there and you're agreeing that Arcs should be on the list, let me know. That we'd love to hear down below. But it is one that I do want to give a shout out to.
Okay.
So now, my
number 5.
My actual number 5 is A Jest for Robin Hood.
Okay. GMT.
GMT Games. Part of the C.O.I.N series. Now you mentioned it's C.O.I.N adjacent.
Yes,
I believe
it's
you were telling me
not
when
technically speaking a C.O.I.N game, but it definitely uses those mechanics. It definitely draws from it a lot.
Yes, and it's of course the Robin Hood theme.
Yes.
So I really, as soon as you mentioned it was like the Robin Hood, I was like, oh, it already piqued my interest.
Yep.
So I was already really keen, and then the game doesn't disappoint.
Yeah.
It's a neat little game.
There's this adds an element of bluffing to because
the C.O.I.N series.
The sheriff is trying to figure out where's Robin Hood, and meanwhile
all your counters are covered up. They're all down.
Sending the wagons around, and some of them are traps, and some of them are big rewards.
That's right. You never know.
Which ones are the good carriages, which ones are not.
Yeah.
The robbing mechanic, I think, is really great. I don't know. What else did you like about
it? Those things that you mentioned, there's also the different, when you have to battle different characters, they come up and you have to actually fight against them, and you have to send.
Yes.
And depending on their strength and your die rolling there.
Yeah, that's from the robbing, when you're robbing them.
Yes.
Especially, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you're not for sure who you're going to go up against. It could be someone easy. It could be someone more difficult. Yeah. So.
And you get to decide whether you want to be a jerk or whether you want to be a nice.
That's right. A nice robber.
Yes.
That's right. So
anyway. There's a lot of really clever bits to it.
Yeah.
I think it's a great intro to the C.O.I.N series.
For sure. Yeah. Agreed. So, Nate, what was your number 5?
My number 5 is an old one, but a new one at the same time.
This
is Nexus Ops. This was re-released in 2024 with Renegade Game Studios.
/ Avalon Hill.
/ originally Avalon Hill, kind of. It's the Hasbro Avalon Hill.
Is it?
Kind of like the Disney Star Wars. Like, it's not like the original.
Okay.
But it is a really neat game. It's got all the I'll just open this real quick. And you got to take a look at like the
We fired this one up in studio. Yeah.
Pieces and the giant, hill in the center that you got to control Anyway, it's just fun. It is the quintessential Ameritrash game.
Big standees, coming
great with kids, especially I think teenage boys would love this game.
Yeah.
It was just about building armies and bashing them against each other.
And you just chuck dice, right?
You throw dice.
Oh yeah,
and it's a lot of fun. Very quirky. It's a quirky type of war game, but I think it's a really fun one, and it's a really, really great time. Just lots of fun.
Awesome.
Yeah. And your number 4.
My number 4 it was one you just introduced to me.
Yeah, this is a relatively new one.
Atlantis Exodus. Yeah. And you know what? It is very intriguing.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it. We've done a number of playthroughs, and
I've played it solo, and we've played it
a number of times.
3-player.
Yeah, and what I really love is just the puzzle of you go down it's like layered steps kind of.
Yeah.
And kind of puzzling it, but the steps kind of rotate. So it's kind of like that. What is that game with the
Soulkin?
Soulkin, that's it. Yeah, with the slide, similar to that, I think. It's got a similar feel as that one, and then you're kind of tracking around the board and getting points.
It's
point salad kind of game.
Yeah, it's definitely it's definitely a strong Euro. I don't know. Would you say it's a heavy Euro, or would you say
there's layers to it?
Yes,
there's for sure layers to it, right? You start digging at one thing, but then you're like, oh my goodness, what about that track and that track, and getting into that kind of area of the game.
It's definitely in a min-max type of thing,
which is what I really love about it.
Yes,
because it gives opportunity for growth.
Yeah,
it's not like unidimensional there.
And there's a little bit of opportunism mixed in with kind of that standard kind of like planning out your move 10 moves ahead and trying to figure out what you want to get.
And there's also that whole thing with, as I was saying, those different levels you step down through. You're also kind of watching what your opponents are doing, because they can kind of play spoiler on you.
Yeah.
And so there's that piece too, which is adds a nice little interplay between the players.
Yes.
I really like it.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I like that one as well.
Yeah, it's a great game.
All right. So next, my number 3.
Ooh,
Is this my number 3?
intros.
I think. Yeah, or my number 4. Sorry.
Number 4, yeah.
Atlantic Sentinels. Now this one is by Compass Games.
Compass Games,
What's
okay.
really interesting about it...
This is a war game, right?
It's a war game. But what's interesting is there's a lot of games out there where you're a submarine and you're trying to sink as many ships as you can and, you know, putting up your periscope and, you know, firing off. This is the same type of thing, except it's from the perspective of the escorts that are trying to escort the convoy safely across the Atlantic to Britain and back. And so you're trying to figuring out how you want to arrange your escorts, and then when the submarines come in, how you got to detect them, you got to drop depth charges and try and, you know, damage them and scare them away or sink them, hopefully.
And you're playing against the game mechanic here. It's a solitaire only.
Solitaire only.
Okay.
And it's got a really neat narrative kind of story to tell.
Awesome.
It is fairly lengthy, I find.
Yeah.
It's not hard, but it does take a bit of time sometimes, especially if you roll poorly and you end up with a lot of encounters when you're trying to cross the Atlantic. Sometimes you'll cross the Atlantic and nothing happens, and other times you get hammered with wolf pack after wolf pack.
Oh, wow.
But it is really interesting, and it's got a nice level of detail in it.
Does it kind of immerse you in the game, would you say?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
I think
it's got that immersive bit. Okay.
Yeah, it's really good. So
Okay,
and
very
now
good.
your
So let's go to the next one. The next one I've got here, it's a little game.
Yeah.
But it's mighty. And it's called Nar. And you actually introduced this one to me.
Yeah.
Great little game.
Yeah.
It's got a bit of a Viking theme to it, I'd say. Mm-hmm. And you're kind of going around, and you're just basically you're going down different tracks, and you're a card player, playing different cards and getting different abilities, and working your way through to basically, you know, most VPs wins kind of thing. Yeah. Quick little game.
Yeah.
Lots of fun.
Yeah, it's very simple, but I think there's a lot of really interesting ideas. I love how they interact. A lot of I find like the ideas aren't necessarily innovative, but it's the way it's all combined.
Just fits together beautifully. It's a nice little, and the simplicity of it is part of what I enjoy about it. It's you're just basically playing cards that are matched in different colors, and away
playing
you go.
Suits and all that stuff. Yeah.
Yep.
That's great.
So it's a great game.
Yes,
highly recommend.
Good. Yes, very good. My next one, I'm in a bit of a war game.
So we're going from light to heavy here, eh?
Compass Games. Actually, this game isn't that heavy.
No? Okay.
Storm of Steel, Ju-87 Stuka Eastern Front. This one, you are managing what they call a Staffel or squadron of Stuka dive bombers. And so it's in Russia. You're sending them out into various missions. And what's really funny, it's as you play it, one of the most, really the highlight of the whole game is in managing the squadron. So you have pilots and gunners, and they get stressed or they get injured.
Okay.
Planes get damaged or shot down, and then you have to wait for them to get repaired. So it becomes like this. The game really is about more the management of the personnel and the equipment to try and have the most success on every given mission. So it very much reminds me of kind of managing like a soccer team or a baseball team or something.
Okay,
because it has that same vibe to it, but it's in a war setting.
Right.
So even if you're not a war gamer, but you like that kind of management of, you know, sports game management or something like that.
Team.
It kind of
Team
has
management.
that. Yeah, it has that feel to it because you're trying to cobble together your team. You're like, oh, these 3 people are super stressed, and this guy's injured, but they gotta go.
Got to find a way for them to fit into it.
Yeah, and then we got to wait another like 3 turns till we get a new plane, and then we can do this.
Geez.
So it's got a kind of a fun management side to it. The missions themselves are procedural. It's just rolling dice, drawing event cards, and things happen mostly to try and, you know, damage or blow up your planes. But that part of it is more just the kind of the procedure part of it, and the fun part is in deciding who to send and how to manage your team, so to speak.
Team management.
So, yeah,
very good.
But it's a really neat game. I've really enjoyed it.
Awesome. Okay, Storm of Steel.
All right, so now your number 2.
Okay, my number 2 it's an oldie, but it's been re-released as the Saga edition, and it's Shards of Infinity.
Okay.
And great little deck building game here. You basically just start it's all card driven, and you're just slowly building your deck. And
Similar to Ascension or Star Realms.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yep, those are other games that are actually right in the same vein. And this one does have a sort of an add-on edition where you can actually add characters into your decks. But I find that these just as you gain experience into the game, they add more depth to the game.
Yeah,
I don't know if you would agree.
Well, it's all the expansions. They've just rolled it out gradually.
Exactly. So you slowly kind of build into those.
Yeah. We've had some really fun games of this, both online and offline.
Absolutely, yes. And, generally the game will last maybe 10, 15 minutes.
Yeah.
But
sometimes, if you have a lot of healing
slow
ability,
burn battles, right? A lot of healing.
It can take a while.
Believe it or not, one game lasts us 45 minutes.
Yes.
Got to be a record.
Yeah,
but anyway, Shards Infinity, a lot of fun. Don't overlook it.
Okay, great. My number 2 is a really, really unique game. I interviewed the designer Ted Racer for the channel back in the summer. I, Napoleon is a game where essentially you replay Napoleon's life. I don't know how much... I'll just show you the board, basically. It has event cards that basically are events that happened during Napoleon's life.
Chronological?
Yes, but you draw them out in a different order than maybe they happened historically. Like maybe like that same year, but they're
slightly off.
So
so
maybe for example, when Napoleon meets Josephine, he's already married to someone else, or something like that.
Those kinds of twists.
Yeah. So every time you play, but you're doing all the same kind of events. But the battles turn out differently each time. There's different things that happen, right? So you can have affairs. You can make friends in politics. They can lose favor. You can make friends or enemies around the world.
Okay.
Set treaties up, run campaigns. It's got a really big scope, but it actually plays. It's actually quite simple to play. It's very narrative based.
Okay.
There's no real win or lose per se. You're just trying to
it's solitaire?
see the story. Yeah, it's basically it's solitaire.
It is solitaire. Okay.
And you're just trying to see what story will play out that particular time. I played games where I got killed in my first battle.
Napoleon can die.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I was a captain in the army or whatever, and I wasn't never became emperor because I died in the first battle.
You were dead.
So yeah.
Oh no.
But it's just a purely narrative game, but very different than something like Tales of the Arabian Nights or whatever.
Okay.
Because it's all based in the history.
Way more historical.
But you can kind of replay a life and see, well, if this happened before this and so forth, how things could have been different.
How does the replayability stack?
Oh, I think it's really, really
Is
good.
it?
Yeah.
Okay, so it could...
There's a lot of different ways that things can go.
So you could actually sit down to a second, third, fourth, fifth game.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I don't think it would get stale because everything is the battles turn out differently or different cards come up at different times. So you would see the same things, but they would play it in a different order. So
okay, very cool.
Just to see how it would work. Anyway.
So Nate, I got to tell you something here. We're down to our top one, our number ones each. And I had a real dilemma.
Yes.
Which was solved by you and I doing this video.
Okay.
Because these were like co-tied for me.
Yes.
So
okay. That's
it doesn't
perfect.
matter.
So you're
we'll
good with either one.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So going to my number one.
All right, number one
is War Story.
Okay.
Occupied France. And this is just the most fantastic choose-your-own-adventure war game.
Yes.
You kind of go through it, and you pick 4 characters. There's a tracking sheet of your health, different objectives you hit throughout the game.
Basically,
it's role-playing. You get mission books. You get these 3 mission books. Telling the 3 different missions that you're going to experience. Yep. There's actually a Scenario 0 as well.
Yes.
Which is it's going to be a print and play, I believe.
Yep.
So that Osprey's doing, which is great.
Yeah.
You and I, we started into this one. I have played, we played a little, I gave you a little sampler of it.
Yes, we sampled it.
I did actually play the full scenario with my daughter, and Flash played the 3rd scenario with me as well. Yeah. And so I've gotten it around to a lot of people. I know you were kind of lukewarm to it.
I enjoyed it. It's more, I don't know. It was. I think I need to play it more, maybe to get a
really
fuller
dive into
opinion on it.
Yeah.
But I see what it's doing, and it's a really neat idea. And I think it's one of those games that's great as an introductory, opportunity to teach people about war games and maybe get them into the hobby that way. Expand their horizons a bit.
As a narrative guy. this story just hits home, right?
Yeah,
So because
yes,
this tells a great narrative, and it's punishing. It's punishing.
And you love that.
Know, I do love I love a game that presents a good challenge.
Yeah.
So it presents a good challenge, and it tells a great story, and there's maybe limited replayability on it. Once you do one scenario through, you kind of you kind of have a heads up of what's coming if you play the second time.
Yeah.
Until you forget about it.
Yeah.
But anyway, War Story. That is definitely
interesting.
Yeah.
Number one.
This is co-tied for my number one.
Yes, co-tied.
Nato, could we get to your?
So I'm going to break the tire. This
Yes,
is the co-tie.
this is the co-tie.
Black Forest.
Nice.
By Capstone Games and Furland Spiel. But
Great choice.
I think this game cover is just beautiful.
It's gorgeous.
I love this. It's just so striking
Yes.
and so unique.
Yes.
And I just love the game.
Just kind of
itself.
runs down the sides as well too. Like it carries the whole box.
It's beautiful.
It's awesome.
Now this is by Uwe Rosenberg and Tito Lorenz. And it's very much a Euro. So it's brings back the wheels that were made popular in Glass Road. So if you've played Glass Road, there'll be a lot of familiarity to it. But it does play quite differently. And I think it's better than Glass Road, in my opinion. I like Glass Road, but I feel this is a better game overall. There's a decent amount going on, but it's not that hard to teach once people get the hang of it.
No.
And I think there's a lot of replayability and all the different buildings and all that stuff.
They shift around too, right? Like the buildings shift
around
out,
a little bit
they
as
change
well.
out.
Yeah. But I was really taken by surprise with this one. I wasn't expecting to like it as much as I did. And for me, this was the top game that came out in 2024. I just thought it was great. And if you love Euros, I think you'll really, really want to check this one out.
Totally agree with you, actually. That's why it's co-tied for me.
All right. Well, let us know in the comments what were your favorite games that you played in 2024? Or what games came out in 2024 that you really, really loved? So let us know down below. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to get out there,
Get gaming,
and
be legendary.